The Pin Drop podcast brings you the most intrepid chat on the podsphere. Interesting people sharing their personal formula for success, stories of personal growth, people confessing their fears and what they have learned from going to the edge. Hosted by me, Vicky Anstey, founder of We Are Intrepid. We Are Intrepid is a personal growth philosophy and an adventure experience company. Our sole purpose is to show you how to experience the truly life-enhancing effects of advantage through adversity, to understand how our fears and emotions work, and how to unlock the huge potential we all have to lead a more fulfilling and rewarding life. And maybe for you, that starts with listening to this.
Welcome to the podcast, Josie West. It is an absolute joy to see your face again after all this time, to be reconnected.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
We first met when I was preparing to do my Pacific Ocean row, like probably 3 years ago now, right? Probably
Was
over
it?
that. Yeah, must be.
Yeah.
Because you work for Avanade, which is one of the companies that I'm not even going to say sponsored us. You did so much more than that. We had an entire team of unbelievably, unfathomably intelligent, incredible people behind us, delivering us information and data and really kind of breaking down how we might secure a new world record for 3 women rowing that route, which ultimately we did. So we have you to thank for a large part of that. But you were part of that team, Josie, and I just really connected with you. And you know, we did a few things together, some sort of remote speaking activities, didn't we, out to the Avanade community? You've got like you're 34,000 employees, I think, across the globe. So we were.
Do you know what? I think we're 60,000.
Oh my God, really?
Globally, with everyone in,
right,
it's really hard to grasp, but we're big.
So just trying to get kind of garner as much support as possible, which was just phenomenal. It meant so much to us to know that was there. But yeah, so we met through that whole process, and I've just loved following everything that you do since then. And aside from, and you're going to tell me about this, your career where you are global head of AI and IoT at Avanade.
Oh God, no! I'm UK head.
Oh, UK head.
One
okay,
day.
Well that will do.
Yeah,
one day. I've just promoted you. However,
thank you so much.
But I had to Google IoT.
So does everyone.
We can come on. So does everyone.
So does everyone. It's so funny.
You can educate us later on what that means.
I live in a world of buzzwords, so Google's everyone's friend.
But Avanade is a global tech consultancy, and you do some pretty amazing things. You're also female-led, and I'm very good friends with the CEO of your company, Pam Maynard, and all about empowering women in tech. And I just absolutely love that. It was so in line with everything that we were trying to do as part of the row to, encourage young girls, other women to dream big and dare to do more with their lives. And actually, as a side hustle, you're one of these cool people who has a stonking career and a really funky, cool side hustle. So
no spare time.
Well, I'm not surprised. Because you're also the founder of She Flies, which is an extreme sports organization, right, that enables women to find their boldness, you state, and courageousness in extreme sports. So we'll talk about that. And a lot of that is in the world of kite-surfing, right?
That's right.
Which is pretty cool. So thank you so much for coming on. I think in so many different ways, you absolutely fit the bill as a perfect guest for the Pin Drop pod, and helping us to really connect different people to the world of We Are Intrepid, getting people to kind of push their limits and deepen their understandings of what their human capabilities are. And you embody all of that stuff.
Oh gosh.
So tell me in your own words, Jodie, about, what does your typical day look like? Tell me about your background in your words, perhaps even in layman's terms when it comes to the technical stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm a fan of layman's terms because, you know, I do work in very, well, tech is just full of buzzwords and new things and people getting really excited about stuff. And that can be quite a scary place for a lot of people, but actually they are just buzzwords. And when you lift the hood off them, it's really quite simple what they do. So yeah, I work for Avanade, and, you know, as you say, female led, which is such a huge impact to the decision for me making, you know, moving over to Avanade, because there's lots of huge organizations, tech organizations, you know, we're partnered with Microsoft and Accenture, which are just the monsters, the giants. So moving into a huge organization like Avanade, you can kind of get lost, but when you have a woman at the top, and, you know, the kind of woman that she is, it's very inspirational. So you feel like you have a bit of a voice because the person at the top looks like you and acts like you, and you know, is open and honest about who she is and how she approaches things. And you suddenly think, oh right, okay, I've never seen myself in a position like that, and I'm not necessarily gunning for that position, but it's so amazing to think.
Just it opens up the doors of possibility, right?
Whoa.
Yeah.
So I work for Avanade. I've always had a sort of interest and love for maths and problem solving. So I work in data science and have done for many years. So data science consultancy, which basically just means getting loads of data and finding cool things out from it. So, you know, maybe like human behavior, how do people move around shopping malls, or maybe when you get a big pile of Word documents and PDFs and you've no idea what they say unless you read through them. Well, we can like build tools that read them really quickly and then tell you that there's a graph that says, you know, this document says elephant 50 times and it's got more and more as time goes on. So yeah, always done that. Studied maths at Cardiff Uni. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at uni, but my dad was like, well, you're really good at maths and I really want you to get a degree in maths, so please could you just do that? So I did. It was a bit of a toss up between that and something completely different like dance or psychology.
I love that you have these two sides to you. It's fantastic.
I do. So, and that leads on nicely to the other side. So then I grew up quite landlocked, but when I went to uni, I found ocean sports and just the ocean in general. And, you know, it just creates such a different side to your life of freedom and expression and, you know, and peace. It all kind of falls in together. And so I got into kite surfing and, you know, any sports with a board and water. And I learned at uni. I got taught by a boyfriend at the time. I hated it because it's really hard to learn. It's
to surf. Yeah, I've tried.
Yeah.
It's
surf and
so hard, so frustrating.
You only go to the beach when it's really windy, probably rainy, really blooming cold, and you're getting smashed around by waves and kit and boards, and you know it doesn't look like the beautiful women look on Instagram. It takes a long time to get there. So I hated it. And then my boyfriend and I sadly broke up a few years later, and I was quite good at the time. I wasn't brilliant and I hadn't really committed myself to it. And he said to me, I don't think you're going to keep kite surfing. When we break up, you know, we're friends. He just sort of kindly said, oh, I hope you keep it up. You know, I don't think you will.
Did you take that as a challenge?
It was like a red rag.
Are you daring me?
So that was it. A few years later, I took a sabbatical from the corporate world and I went kite surfing for a year. And my mission was basically to kite surf every day. And in doing that, I recognized a beauty to women kite surfing and our approach. I started teaching when I was away, and there's this real difference between the way men approach kite surfing and women approach kite surfing. And in the past, being a businesswoman, I've been quite anti women only initiatives, simply because they often take women away from society and wrap them up and say, it's okay, you know, you're going to be okay. And actually, for me, it's about exposing the beauty of women in society.
And also
saying,
we need male
unique.
allies, right?
We need male allies. Men aren't
big
bad.
part of it. Yeah.
Men aren't bad people. They're really good people. Women are different, and we're unique, and we're beautiful, and we're elegant, and we have this very, very wonderful strength that I think needs to be celebrated. And so when I started teaching kite surfing, I saw quite a big difference between the way women ride, the way women approach riding. And I started doing a lot of reading about women's learning style. And I shouldn't say women, it's not men and women, it's kind of a masculine and a feminine learning style. So it's not binary, there's very much a scale. But yeah, I noticed it. And when I was taught to teach kite surfing on this year out, I found that the teaching, when you're taught to teach, you're taught to teach the masculine way.
Right.
You're taught to teach people to try, fail, try again. Whereas a lot of women are more analytical, attention to detail, and
they want to understand it.
They want to understand and ask questions and see it and visualize and watch videos.
How interesting.
So that kind of evolved into She Flies Extreme Sports, which is all about, as you say, unlocking women's bold and courageous. And to do that, we teach in a certain way. We create environments where women feel like they can be strong and have superpowers and be themselves and not try and, you know, hide away, be present and be bold. I'm
imagining that the uptake of women into something like kite surfing, this is just a hunch, is
super low.
Really low. I could imagine.
And interestingly, always through their partner, which isn't a problem because, you know, it means they're coming into the sport, but that means that the partner always comes first. More and more women are starting now. There's a lot more at the beach. There was a brilliant YouTube video a while ago that was called the 10%, because there was an assumption that 10% of people that kite surf are women. It's changed. It's really changed. And, you know, the more women that get into it, social media, as all of its faults, has helped get more women into it. There's becoming more equality in competitions and equal pay, and, you know, and it's sort of following other extreme sports like surfing, for example. That's way, way, way more advanced than kiting because it's been around for a lot longer. So they're getting to equality. We're not there, but we're kind of following in their footsteps a little bit faster. So you are one of the few women. And it's so funny when you go to the beach and you're quite good, because there's a
surprise people.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I love that.
You go and there's a certain type of board that you kind of progress into in kite surfing. It's called a board with bindings. It has boots on it rather than sort of slip-on. And when you walk to the beach with boots on your board, people kind of look at you. And when you're a woman, they're like, who's this?
Did you pick up the wrong board?
Yeah, is that for your husband? And there's a progression where you kind of get to the beach and, you know, a guy will say, because it's very friendly sport, everyone chats because it's very safety conscious, so you kind of look out for each other. Someone will say, oh, what kite are you choosing? And you say the kite, and they go, oh, that's bit big for you, isn't it? You know, or some kind advice that they've thought of. And then you get your board out and you can see them kind of take a step back and think, oh, she might be quite good. And then when you get on the water, it's gold.
Tell me, I'm curious specifically for very selfish reasons. So because I'm about to take a group of people to Norway in March, we're actually going to be doing snow kiting.
Oh, amazing.
So which is very, very similar, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me, I mean, just talk to me about the kinds of emotions and feelings and challenges and give me an intro to the wonders of
the first thing I'll
kite
say,
surfing,
which is one of the most important things, is everyone feels fear, right? You know better than anyone what fear feels like. And one of the biggest misconceptions in kite surfing is that some people approach it and don't feel fear. But fear is this human emotion that is a beautiful emotion that tells us that there could be danger coming, and we can either let fear overcome us and allow us to stop, or we can let fear like absorb in all of our bones and turn it into adrenaline and ambition. And so, I mean, you know, going back to the men and women often think that they feel fear and they're alone in it, but actually men just often are in an environment that they're being taught in a way that suits them, so they can easily channel the fear into ambition, whereas women might be taught in a way that doesn't suit them, so it's harder. So for kite surfing, the kite, you need to have a relationship journey with the kite. First of all, you're like, you know, courting, so you're kind of flirting with it a bit and getting to know each other and feeling it and just, you know, touching it and it touching you, and you kind of have this anticipation with it, and then you kind of become friends, and it, like, you are gentle with it and it is gentle with you, and you kind of slowly build this relationship. And then you need to get over that friendship because you are the boss. And as soon as you recognize that you are in control of the kite and it is not in control of you, then you start to fly.
Love it. Except for that there's something else that's more in control of everything, which is the wind, right?
Which is
Mother Nature.
Yeah, that beautiful woman. Yeah. It is. But you know, the places that you go to kite surf, normally Mother Nature will just blow a nice consistent wind and you can react to it and, you know, kind of feel the beauty of it. But yeah, it's quite empowering, you know, when you do get to that stage that you're playing with Mother Nature and you're kind of, you're riding her almost. You're sort of feeling her and riding her. And I think that's where the mindfulness comes from.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, you know, remember many times on our row where there was no point in fighting it, getting cross, you know, and we'd be unbelievably tired, sleep deprived, you know, in physical decline, you know, potentially going backwards or sideways.
Yes, my gosh,
so easy to just get so dejected and frustrated by that, but it's just such an overwhelming power. Like, you have to submit to it and just work with it, don't you? And and just be in awe of her.
Yeah, we're just these humans. I think humans, we, you know, we're quite an arrogant race, that we rule the world and we are the ones that belong. And it's really fascinating when we kind of get a bit of perspective in that, you know, that we're just here we're just visiting. And there's a lot more that we need to respect and recognize. And
we are, in the end, incredibly insignificant.
Absolutely.
Just dots on a landscape.
Absolutely.
It gives you great perspective, actually, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's that back into that kind of, you know, what really matters, because that's the other side of my world, is the tech, you know, women in leadership, women in technology, and technology itself. So AI and IoT is this weird and wonderful land of, I mean, now people are starting to get it because ChatGPT is on is hanging around. So I was like, I'm like, that's what I do.
Yeah. And now people start to suddenly understand what you do for a living.
Yes, exactly. My mum's like, you know, that ChatGPT thing, that's kind of like the AI stuff. Yes, mum. There we go. Here we go.
And so how do you kind of balance then that left side and right side of your brain with your work? Or do you see it, do you think it is a case of that, or am I just categorizing tech as a sort of rational thinking, logical thinking?
Such a great question. I think that my background is always, as I said, maths has always been very logic, you know, and that kind of comes into my relationships and everything around. It's like X plus Y equals Z. And if there's something else in there, I don't get it. And you need to explain that, right? I'm really logical, black and white in that sense. But I'm also a really emotional person, really, you know, emotionally intelligent. And I love seeing people and how they react to things. And a lot of the work I do now in tech, and it's a misconception that people think tech is just people, you know, head down coding. I can't do that, no chance. But what I do is the translating that technology into business world. So working with people who, even if they work with tech, helping them understand what it could do and why it would benefit them, and giving them the right amount of information that allows them to feel in the know and knowledgeable, but not overwhelm them and confuse them. You know, big CEOs of organizations, you you don't go in and you go and confuse them, because all they'll do is say, yeah, I totally get it. And then you've lost that relationship, you've lost that trust. You need to speak to them as a human, as an insignificant human, right? Because there's all this tech around. You need to talk to them in a way that makes them feel empowered and make decisions. So a lot of the work I do now is actually the emotional, the people, the creative side, you know,
the sort of translation of it.
The translation, yeah. I mean, some of my best meetings are, you go into a room with a client and they say, right, here's our problem, and this is all the information about our organization and why this problem is happening. And, you know, my favorite thing about my job is asking the questions that they're not expecting. And ultimately you ask those questions and you probe and you twist, and it's kind of what I do in coaching as well, which is another side of my life. And suddenly you get to the end and you say, that wasn't the problem, was it? This is the problem. And you've just unlocked this knowledge that they hadn't even thought about, because you're just thinking a bit bigger. And it's
and beautiful. Do you think, does that translate well into, I can already see the sort of the parallels or the use of having that kind of brain where, you know, you're looking for knowledge and data and information to inform your emotions, which totally. I know from my own experience, you take that into a world of adventure on whatever level, and it definitely doesn't have to be ocean rowing or even kite surfing. You know, it could be a 10K run or anything that you feel like you're pushing your limits to achieve. As soon as you start to understand some of the facts,
the logic,
fear.
Because that's sort of how I process fear. I think, okay, this is scary. I'm feeling a feeling in my tummy. That's called fear, and that makes sense. X plus Y equals Z. Whereas if, you know, you're not feeling fear, something doesn't make sense. And you think, what, I'm not happy with this because there's something missing here. I need to just feel that and know that. And it totally is an analytical approach. You know, and it comes with things like grief and sadness, where I am very analytical, but I'm very emotional, as I say. So if I'm feeling emotional, I will cry and cry and cry, and I'll never be ashamed of that. And vice versa when I'm happy. But because I know that I'm feeling sad because sad things happened, and I need to feel sad so that I won't feel sad tomorrow.
Just processing it, and also just understanding that you're a human being and there are normal human responses to situations that you're in. Exactly.
It's logic.
And not being afraid of that, and not feeling like you have to sort of numb it or you have to hide it or be ashamed of it, like you said.
No. And that's the beauty, I think, of women in leadership as well. You know, Pam Maynard, who's the CEO of Avanade, she shows emotion. She sends, you know, the earthquakes recently, she sends an email to her 68,000 employees and says, I'm you know, I'm brokenhearted to hear this news. She's so human, and she doesn't have this shame of being emotional.
No. She's an incredible human being. I'm trying to get her to come on the podcast as well, so watch this.
Oh my god, she's on the same podcast as me. I honestly I hope she doesn't listen to this, because she already knows how much I'm
I'll arm wrestle her into it. I just to explain to the listeners, I train Pam, so I do her physical PT, and she's also a pretty strong woman as well, physically. Very capable. But so Josie, the other thing that I'm really picking up here, which I knew about you already, but I think is really interesting, is that I don't know if this is by luck or by design, that you have selected two different things in your life. Well, also you do the coaching, and perhaps we'll come on to talk about that as well, but in tech and in kite surfing that are male dominated, let's be honest, traditionally. And, you know, what you do within those spaces is all about female empowerment. You know, as part of She Flies, you're not just taking people out and coaching them in kite surfing, are you? You're doing lots of other events and you know, initiatives to get women to realize their power. Is that something that you always had in your heart, that you've always been a staunch like feminist and wanted to enable and empower other women, or is that kind of just come about, or where's that come from?
It's another great question. I think that I have always been a confident person, and I've never felt a sort of a victim of being a woman in certain scenarios. So in business, in sport, kite surfing is a great example. I've got a very strong group of people who I kite surf with from when I started. They're men, they're women. The women are as good as the men. Like it's a very equal group. So I was lucky to be in that friendship group. And when I started to realize that women don't have an easy time in tech, in sport, in lots of worlds, and not just tech, right? Business as well. I think I found a bit of a voice. I found a bit of a purpose that I could, address the elephant in the room and not cause any animosity or
division,
it doesn't work to be angry. You have to be kind to people who are acting in a way that they don't realize is discriminatory or well, quite frankly, sexist. You have to be kind to those people, because if you call it out and say, you're an arsehole, they're not gonna, they are human. We're all very selfish people. That's how we've evolved to be. So you need to play to those individuals. And I think I guess that, as I went through my career and then I look back at it, I realized that, it is quite hard for women. And I sort of found a bit of a voice to be able to, raise women up. But I think it's also that it's not just hard for women. There's a perception it's hard for women because, you go into the boardroom, for example, and you're the only woman and you feel worried about speaking out because there's lots of people in there that look different to you. That happens. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I don't think that business has recognized the beauty that women bring. It's changing. Like Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, she's like one of these most incredible women who, she's kind, she's compassionate leadership, she leads with kindness, she leads with her heart. And my goodness, okay, there's some people who don't agree with some of her policies, but she's been very successful. And I don't think business has recognized the value that women bring to environments and to situations. And that's where I feel like my purpose is to not just bring more women into the boardroom, but to bring a woman into the boardroom and say, she's going to have something to say that is going to rock this room, and it's going to make a big impact to our organization.
I mean, I think she has made, just as a side comment, like she's just made such an impact in so many ways, hasn't she? And even just most recently by stepping down. I think that action in itself just empowered so many women to realize incredible. We don't have to flog ourselves endlessly. We can make an impact. We can step away from that and move into something else and take care of ourselves and have self-compassion and be realistic about what our capabilities are.
And work is not the most important thing in the world. You are in your world, right? You are, people around you are, not work.
No, I love it. I applaud you for everything that you're doing. I feel like I'm sure you've chosen those paths because you are bloody good at what you do. But I feel like a kindred spirit that you're someone like me who kind of chooses the hard path in life. You go up against the barriers and the challenges that exist. You don't sort of try to find an easier way around that. So
I've never thought that, but I think you're right. I think I'm not very good at relaxing and just taking a step back, and it's not always a good thing, right? But you're absolutely right. It's the journey that you want to go on so that you feel proud of yourself.
Can we move on to talk about why this is such an exciting day for you? Because I'm dying to hear about it.
Yes, we can. So it's now 9 a.m. and it's.
Can I come in your suitcase?
You know what? There's absolutely no room because I packed it full of extra layers. So I am off to Antarctica this afternoon.
Wow.
I'm heading to New Zealand, and then I will, in a week's time, get on a boat and I'll head south to Antarctica, and then I'll head east and disappear off the map on the east and appear in the west, and then we land back in Argentina in 31 days after we leave.
Incredible. And so what are you doing?
Well, I wish I was being very, very adventurous, but really what we're doing is witnessing the beauty of the world on a incredible icebreaker ship.
Wow.
And we'll be spending each day going off the boat on smaller boats and in helicopters to go and explore Antarctica and learn about the climate change and glaciology and the animals there, the animals that have been, you know, untouched by humans. Really, there's not many boats that do this route. There's a few, you know, if people want to do it, they can do it, but it's a rare trip. So my partner is an expedition guide, so he'll be, you know, one of the guides on the boat, and it's his first time doing this long trip as well, so it's going to be, it really will be once in a lifetime. Yeah.
Wow, how fantastic. So you're away for like 6 weeks.
6 weeks. And what
off the grid.
Well, yeah, whilst I'm really excited about seeing all of that and witnessing all that, what the thing that is almost as exciting is the fact that there is not one bar of signal or internet.
Amazing.
For the whole duration.
Yeah.
So I'm completely off grid. I've had to download all of my books on my Kindle and in any podcasts I want to read, and I've got a journal and a pen, and that's it.
Wow. Well, I know how that feels. Can I give you one tip? When
Please.
You come back and you have thousands of emails in your inbox, go select all, delete. That's what I did.
I'm going to do that.
Because if they're important, they will email back. I remember doing that when I got off the boat. I mean, not immediately, but you know, a couple of days later, looking at my emails and just feeling this awful sense of overwhelm, you know, directly following this, you know, period of time that was fucking hard and challenging and difficult in so many ways that I hadn't even imagined. However, liberating in the you know, the respect that I didn't have life admin to do, and then suddenly faced with all these emails, and I just thought, how on earth am I gonna reply to them or sift through them and work out what's important, what's not important? I just thought, I'm just gonna delete them all, and it was the best feeling ever.
Amazing. And I just think that how do you move from this, like you've found this kind of human insignificance, everything so much bigger than you, and then you get back to this little computer and there's these thousands of emails, none of this matters.
And be ready. Exactly. You get perspective in a whole different way, and also a sense of apathy, which I found really weird. So you kind of be prepared for that, just to come back and think, you know, petty disagreements or issues or complaints or annoyances are just so irrelevant. None of that stuff really matters. And of course it wears off after a certain period of time. You get back to normality. But it's enjoy that. That's incredible.
I'm looking forward to it.
And are you a little bit afraid about what you're about to do? Are you afraid of the cold or anything like that? Talk to me about how that feels.
I'm not. I'm very much a kind of in the moment person. I just don't. Someone said to me, my gosh, are your family worried about you, you know, being away and off grid? And I said no, because they're used to me just, you know, just they wouldn't be able to have any impact on it if they were worried about me. I'm not. I'm worried about making sure I've got the right equipment to spend a long time outside. The boat will be comfortable, you know. It's a cruise ship, basically.
Right.
I mean, there's no like big restaurants and cinemas and swimming pools, but it's a comfortable ship. We'll be staying in bunk beds, but we'll have a place to, you know, watch lectures and have dinner.
You'll be warm.
We'll be warm. So
you won't be rowing it.
We're absolutely not rowing it. I don't know who people have to do that.
Not in the Antarctic, no.
Like making sure that we've got the right equipment so that I can just be on the deck or be on the land for hours and hours and hours and not feel like I need to go back, so I can just absorb it. but no, I'm not afraid. I think, you know, it will be just a once in a lifetime experience. I think the only thing that if I was to push myself to say I'd be afraid is that I'd be afraid that I'm not sucking it in as much as I should be, you know, and taking it with me as I come back to the UK.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will be amazing.
Well, have the best time. Maybe, I don't know, will you journal or something like that?
Yeah, I'm going to journal. Yeah.
Also, maybe think I took a voice recorder with me on the road.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I've got
really
some
nice
cameras, GoPros and stuff. I might do
a little voice diary or a video diary or something. Amazing.
Be nice to look back on.
Yeah. Josie, what would you say is your kind of personal motto for success in life? What do you live by? What's the hill that you die on?
Well, I think it links to She Flies, which is this be bold and courageous. I think that one for me is quite an important one, where you're, you know, if you're faced with a situation where you feel anxious and you feel like you shouldn't be there and you know, you're not sure about it, if you're bold and courageous in that moment, everything will be better. Everything is always better, right? You have to step into these things and be bold and courageous. I think the other one as well, I was thinking about this yesterday, is one of the things that I like doing with all of the She Flies community, and actually women in business as well, I talk about it a bit, is the motto of showing off is a superpower.
Right, I love that.
Because when we're born and raised, little girls and little boys, we are just told constantly to stop showing off. Like, I mean, I
think girls get that message much more loud and clear than boys do.
Yeah, you know, stop showing off, stop making a scene, stop being silly, stop showing off, right? So you kind of think, well, showing off means being arrogant, it's obnoxious, people don't like it. And so you just take a little bit of yourself and you pop it in a box and you keep it there because that's the arrogant box, right? But actually, if you just open that box and put it back in yourself and you are your whole self and you show off, that basically brings this whole different layer of confidence, of, you know, who you are, of being sure of yourself. And confidence means progression, and progression means success. And, you know, there's a great story where I was doing an event at a wakeboard park, it's a cable park. For those people that don't know, it's a lake with a cable that runs around the top of it and then a line that comes down to the water, and someone holds onto the line and they have a board on their feet and they go round and round and round. And on the park there's these plastic obstacles that you go on and you jump off. And one of the girls, young girl, she was 14 at the time, she's my favorite wakeboarder, she's a beautiful British girl, she was showing off on the cable. She was showing off at the front of the cable where everyone waits to get on. So there's a kicker right in front of that cable, and she went round and she went on that kicker every single time. She crashed, she landed it, and when she landed it, everyone cheered. When she crashed, she cheered. She was completely and utterly showing off. When she's on the dock, when she's not on the water, she's really shy. She's really, really shy. She wouldn't be the loudest voice, she wouldn't speak up in front of other people. But when she's on the cable,
she channels it through that.
She shows off, she progresses. She's one of the best wakeboarders I've seen, certainly in the UK. And it was so interesting because at the end of the event, other people arrived. We took the whole park, so there was just women, just She Flies people there. And at the end of the event, other people arrived, men and other girls, women, and they turned up at the cable, and Leah didn't know those people, so she felt unsure of herself, right? And she took that showing off thing and she popped it back in the arrogant box and put it aside. And she stopped doing the tricks on the kicker next to where everyone's standing. And I was just thinking, how do you prevent people doing that? Because she was incredible. She wasn't arrogant, she wasn't obnoxious, she was just incredible. She was not only progressing herself, but she was inspiring other people. Like, showing off is a superpower, and that's my motto. I really want to redefine what it means to be a show off.
I love that. I think that's just it's a playfulness that we are all entitled to have, right? Absolutely. In our lives, to explore who we are, find out for ourselves, live with integrity, not feel, and I've had experience of this in my life in a few different ways, but live by other people's narratives. We need to be given permission
exactly
to discover our own narrative.
It helps.
And also I think this whole notion that kind of taps into this of like, we have a fixed personality, we're born a particular way, or we're conditioned to be a particular person, and have certain behaviors and characteristics that define us. I genuinely don't believe that. I think we can change and we can make choices at any time in our lives to become whoever the fuck we want to be,
and we can just test it out. We don't like it, fine. No one's looking at you. I think that's a big thing as well, that, in sport, in kite surfing, you get to the beach, like I said, the example I gave before, and you think everyone's looking at you. Everyone, no one's looking at you, they're looking at themselves, but they're only looking at you to see if you're looking at them. But no one's looking at you. Just go and live your life and be who you want to be. It sounds so cheesy, but if you really listen to the words, be who you want to be. We stop ourselves so much because there's societal pressure of what we should be and who we are, and we step outside your box. And
and I think those brave people who buck the trend, they paved the way for everyone else not to feel like they have to collude with that societal expectation. So those people should be celebrated, not knocked down.
Exactly. And data science, actually, going back to the tech world, that's a really good example of it, because I've been in this thing called data science, which has changed names over the years because it's a different buzzword, and I've always been a bit of an imposter there. I've never, ever had the skills on the list of skills that someone says, these are what a data scientist can do, right? I'm going to say a bunch of words that mean nothing to you, like Python and Java and all these different, machine learning models. I never had any of those skills, but I was being promoted and I was successful in my career, and people were telling me I was doing a good job. And what they need to add to the bottom of that is emotional intelligence, right? And problem solving and customer relationship, stakeholder relationship. And now I can say I'm different to data scientists because they're very different to me, but I can help them because I can engage with the customer and the business, and they can help me because they can tell me what's feasible so that I can share that with the business.
And also that, I don't know very much about it, but it's that emotional intelligence, that's the human aspect that these bots don't have, right? And if we don't want them to take over our world and our lives and all of our behaviors, then it's that ability to apply kindness as one example of emotional intelligence that we need to promote. I mean, I did a podcast with Mo Gaudat. I don't know if you know of his work. And he's like probably the world's biggest guru on all of this stuff, and that's really his philosophy, is like, we need to apply kindness and not allow those algorithms to kind of take on their own life and make their own decisions independently of us. That's really the only thing that we have.
There's a really good, I actually did some training a little while ago, and I went on the training because someone said, you'll be fascinated by this, but you probably won't learn much. And it was an emotional intelligence training, right? So you go and you have this EQ testing of what you see and how you react to it and how you should react to it and consider other people's emotions. And we watched this video of a situation in a room, and it was so awkward. Like, the video was so awkward. It was horrible. This woman said something, someone said something out. I can't remember what happened, but you could just cut the tension with a knife, right? And at the end of the video, the trainer said, right, what did you all see? And I kind of put my hand up and was like, oh my God, it was so awkward, wasn't it? That poor woman. And the people in the training couldn't see it. There was other people like me, right? But there's half of the people there that couldn't see it. And they are very intelligent in a very different way, but they couldn't feel and see that emotion. A robot can't see that.
No.
You have to have people that
sense it,
sense and feel it and react to it, and because you can't program that. It's just it's an eye movement or a body language.
And again, I guess that comes back to what you said a while ago about celebrating and promoting the feminine characteristics of human behavior, not to say male or female, but the more feminine characteristics and behaviors that are so important, that so often get overlooked or have in the past, that we need to kind of make more space for, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What would you say has been your kind of sketchiest moment in life so far? When do you feel like you've been to the edge? Do you feel like you've found your limits or pushed yourself anywhere close to them?
You know, this one's hard, because in terms of physically, I'm almost disappointed to say no. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, I need to go and I need to push myself more and more and more. Physically, there's been loads of environments where I've been kite surfing in gnarly conditions where you get out of the car and your hair is completely sideways and you're about to pump up a kite and go into this roaring ocean. Like that to me is just adrenaline. It's just like you're riding on this energy of Mother Nature and you just need to survive, and incredible, but it's not pushing me to the limit. And I've done marathons before where it was incredible and hard work and best day of my life, but I didn't push myself. I could have done better, right? I think actually the sketchiest moment in my life is a different one, which was during COVID. I am an extrovert, and there's no doubt about that. I get my energy from other people, but I also get my best friend told me this a while ago, and it really made me think about it. Other people help me relax. When I'm at home on my own, I do not relax. I am doing something. I can't even watch a film. If I'm watching a film, I'll be painting my nails at the same time. There's always stuff going on. Right? I think
multitasking. We call that multitasking.
Yeah, exactly. I can't relax. The only time I can actually relax and have mindfulness is doing a jigsaw puzzle, 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, and all I'm really doing is racing myself to see how quickly I can finish it. So people help me, because when I'm sat around, like now, I feel relaxed, just chatting and sitting with friends at the pub. I relax. I don't look at the watch. I'm completely switched off. During COVID, I lived on my own, and the single 30-year-old was forgotten during that time. And
working from home, being isolated,
home, starting a new job, working from home. My family don't live close by. My family were very anxious about COVID, so when I came home, they were worried about me coming home. My friends were the same, everyone was worried about it, so they didn't want me to come in. They were kind and good, but I was this, unknown. And I remember when they announced the masks, to wear the masks in supermarkets, and going to Sainsbury's was my only access to smiling at people and having a connection with a human. And suddenly
that was gone.
Masks on, it was gone, and you just have eyes that when you catch eye contact with someone, you change direction and you look somewhere else. And it was the hardest time of my life, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think only now I can really admit to me getting to a point of, I think, depression. I never went to see anyone, but it was a point in my life where I had to admit failure, and I'm not very good at failing at things, but I couldn't kind of get myself out of it. And that was really hard. That was really hard.
We are social animals. That's the fact, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, we are. And it was kind of, I remember the sound of the Zoom when you switch off Zoom, and it had like a noise, like I can't remember what the sound is now. It was like didum. And suddenly you're away from all of your friends again, and you're just back in this space alone. So that was the sketchiest point in my life, and it's not extreme sports and pushing my body to the limit, but it was really hard.
Do you think there was a value in that? And this is a difficult thing to sort of articulate, because I certainly don't mean any disrespect to people who obviously lots of lives were lost in COVID, and it was incredibly hard for people, losing businesses. I shut my own business down during COVID. But do you think there was a value in it, like looking back in hindsight, to all of us, because we were all affected by it in some way?
Yeah.
And, we had to live through that. We had to get through it. We had to survive it. We had to get resourceful. We were isolated. We were, and of course I've sort of experienced that in a maybe even more extreme manner, but through choice. I chose to go and row an ocean for 60 days and be completely isolated from the rest of the world. I feel like there is, in some way, it sort of unites us, but in one way, we've all got a common experience that, most of us kind of got through. And perhaps it's taught us, or some of us, where our capabilities lie and what we're able to survive. And
I think that was it. It was my parents have always been like, apart from my dad really wanting me to do a maths degree, otherwise they've been like, you do what you want, go and do what you want. You've always had a choice. And when something's hard, you either work really hard, you work harder at it and complete it, or you change direction and you go somewhere else. COVID,
choice is taken away.
We didn't have a choice. We had to do these things. I mean, I broke the rules a lot. Like one day.
Why doesn't that surprise
you? Joking, yeah. Nope.
No, well, do you remember when they said you're allowed to take your dog for a walk? Well, I was like, well, I've got 2, so that qualifies me for 2 walks.
And they can't be apart, so they need to help the other one. Yeah,
exactly.
I think I learned a lot about myself. I think I also learned a lot about the value of life. I think it's as simple as that. It's like, just seeing people that are quitting their jobs and starting something new and incredible and exciting that has come from them thinking, well, that period of life was just makes you sort of think and reflect. And
I got through that. So what else can I do? And what else?
I got through that, and I had a chance to just think about what I want and what,
and reprioritize. I think there's been a lot of that as well.
I think also one of the big things of COVID that we don't talk about so much is that you're forced to be with yourself and look at yourself. And we fill our time with, meetings and calls and social media and exercise. And you're not actually with yourself. Even if you go for a run, you've got a podcast in, or I certainly do. And you had to be with yourself. There was no way you could fill all that time doing stuff. You had to reflect. Now it's very different. I know people with kids had a very different experience, and they had no time on their own. But it's that kind of same storm, different boat scenario. We all went through something. And it was hard. Everyone went through a hard time.
And thinking about that, and perhaps the new resolve it gave you, or the fire it put in your belly to live life in a different way, what would you say, aside from going out to Antarctica this afternoon, which is just a bit of a weird thing to say, do you feel like you have, what's your Everest, what's your unconquered life goal, or what sits at the top of your bucket list?
Oh gosh.
And it doesn't have to be sort of adventure related. It could certainly be career related, but
it's like, this is a hard one. I think there's a few things. I think there is and I think COVID taught me this as well, that don't be ashamed. I don't want to be ashamed of how I feel about stuff. So like the women in sport, women in business, I've always been a bit ashamed about how I felt about it, because it's not a popular opinion if you're sat around a group of guys. They're like, oh God, here we go. Even the kindest.
The eye rolls.
And I think for women in extreme sports, they're still not in a place that they deserve to be in terms of respect in the industry. And because women in wakeboarding, for example, if they do something wrong, they break their neck. So they're putting everything into this, and yet they're not getting the recognition that they deserve to do that, because men also
men get
it wrong and they break their leg, but they get paid loads of money for it, and they get this like glory. And so I think if I can get to that point where I'm sort of elevating female extreme sports athletes to a level that they deserve, that would be incredible. And also I think, you know, as I said, I do coaching, and in coaching we talk a lot about goals, and you have this like dream goal, this aspirational goal, which is kind of where I see this, what your Everest is. And if it's right, if you create the right goal that is a dream goal, an aspirational goal, you actually never get there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
because
it's about changing your behaviors now. So this is how I always talk about it when I do coaching and mentorship. You know, if your goal is big enough, exactly as you say, you won't ever achieve it, or it's unlikely. But actually your behaviors right now have to change, because suddenly your mindset is different. You're suddenly thinking about, well, I wasn't just gonna run a marathon, I was actually going to run 7 marathons in 7 days across 7 continents. Like suddenly that's just mind blowing. So now you're not thinking about, I better do my 5K run today. You're thinking, holy shit, I better start, you know, researching how I'm going to do this. What are the, you know, the different terrains that I'll be at, you know, and it just
suddenly
opens
changes
everything up. Yeah.
And I think that's it. I think my kind of dream goal and aspirational goal is that I want to create a voice and impact as many women who are feeling that they're not worthy as I possibly can, whether that's women in sport, women in business, women in tech, just women generally. You know, I really enjoy that, being on stage almost and speaking to these women as if they're all my friend and saying, you know, I'm not just saying this, you're really cool. And this is how you get it out, and this is how you, and that's kind of where I want to keep going in my career, keep going with She Flies, and that's where I kind of continue to have a purpose.
Well, I can't think of 2 other areas in life where you could make a bigger impact. You know, as I said earlier, you've kind of chosen the hard path, both in tech and in kite surfing. And you know, good for you. I just think that's brilliant. And I know that you will create huge ripples with that. What would you say though, Josie, to somebody? So, you know, We're Intrepid really is not necessarily targeting people who already would consider themselves to be adventurers. It's about encouraging people to see that possibility is there for them in their lives, and they can take a first step towards it in lots of different ways, in a sort of guided way, you know, on our trips or through our coaching. But what would you say to someone who kind of sees their potential, or has an intention at least to explore it, but just doesn't know where to start? What would your advice be to someone who just is feels a bit lost, and how to begin that journey?
Wow. I think, oh God, you're really good at this, Vicky. What would I say to someone who feels a bit lost? I think it's quite important for me to work out what your values are. I think knowing what your values are will help you work out what your goals are, right? So like what's important to you day to day, and that helps you check that what you're looking to do is on the right route to get there. And it also helps you realize that you have to take a step to get there. You have to sort of, you know, walk that route in order to reach that goal. I think for someone who's afraid to take the first step, for me, it's about taking your armor off and just recognizing that you are you, and no one else cares. It's down to you, no one else. In consulting, we are, you know, Avanade, we're 68,000 people, but we're all individuals, and we all look after each other. We're a very, very collaborative organization, but you manage your own time. So if you say yes to everything, you've got no time left, right? You manage your career. You tell someone when you want to aim for promotion. It's all down to you. And it's the same in life. If you don't take that step, you don't have to, but it's only you who can take it. And I think that we need to be better at just like picking off our armor that's shielding us from society and perception, and, you know, and just be the human that you are and take those steps, because it's down to you. And, you know, there's nothing better in this world than being proud of yourself. And
I talk about this a lot, of finding the strength in yourself and realizing that actually you already have everything that you need to succeed. It's all in there. It's just a case of giving yourself permission to explore that,
giving
and
yourself permission. Yeah. And I think
we're all made the same in the end.
Yeah, that's
there's
the
nothing
key
any more extraordinary about me or you than anybody else, right? It's just about intention and desire, and like you say, your values in terms of, you know, why does it matter to you, so that when things get hard, you look back inside yourself and remind yourself why you're doing it, why it really
that's it. If you think about someone who's really I've someone I manage is he wants to be a director by a certain age, right? I want to be a director by 33, for example, and that's fine, but what I want to know is, what is it about director that you want? Because that's just a title. That to me is, well, we could do that, but what is it?
Why does it matter to you?
People? What is your value that sits underneath that title of director? That's what's important. And, you know, back to your point around we're all the same, I think in terms of going back to that, taking the first step again, every emotion that you're feeling is not abnormal. If you're feeling fear, everyone feels fear. You're not sitting there going, oh, well, they can do it because they don't feel nervous like I do. Everyone feels it. Like, absorb it, feel it, touch it, you know, like
lean into it.
It, you know, redefine it. Everyone's feeling it. They're just managing it in a different way.
Josie, what are your worst habits? What are the people on the boat in Antarctica going to discover about you?
I'm quite annoying in terms of like questions.
Oh, you're always asking questions.
I'm always asking questions.
What's that?
Yeah, like more like someone will say, oh, you know, I'm feeling this. I'm like, are you really feeling that? I try and coach people. That's what my worst habit is. So someone will say that,
whether they want it or not.
They've made a decision in life, and I like ask all about this decision and test whether it's the right decision or
and by the end of it, you've talked them out of it.
It's really annoying. My boyfriend always says to me, can you stop coaching me? I'm like, what is free? You know, it's very expensive. It's free.
Well, I would be very happy to receive coaching, Josie, from you. What would you say is the best compliment that you have recently received, in direct opposition to that last question?
You know, I received one yesterday. I didn't think about this before. I was told that by a producer in a media company that I'm the best person he's had on camera, like in terms of react to the camera interview. And I was really pleased to see it, because he was saying, you know, he's kind of comparing it to lots of people that he's worked with and execs and you know, these big dogs, these big companies. And that was I really cherished that, because it meant a lot to me, and it's something that, you know, I think that gives me a platform, right? It gives me a platform to have that purpose. And so
and you have a natural affinity for it. We'll watch this space. We'll be looking out for you. My last question, Josie, that I always ask: what do you wish that I'd asked you? What did we not talk about that you wish we had?
Oh my goodness, I haven't prepped for this one. What do I wish that we? I think we talked about some really good, and I'm not going to not answer this. We talked about some do you know what we talked about a lot that I wasn't expecting we talk about, and it's really nice. I wish that we would have talked about what I could do to push my limits. That's what I think.
In a physical sense,
because I think you inspire me, and I think there's a lot that I do in my life that is, you know, mentally very busy, and in business very busy, and, you know, entrepreneurial very busy. I've always had some side hustle going on my whole life. Physically, I really respond well to physical environments, and I need to be pushing myself more. So I think maybe that.
Okay, I'll get it on my agenda to find you a challenge. I
yes,
mean,
please.
Norway's pretty full up at this stage, but there's Jordan in May.
I'm interested.
Come and immerse yourself in the Wadi Rum Desert. No phone signal, be a slightly different climate to Antarctica. You might get a suntan, but it'll be hard work, lots of climbing and abseiling and canyon walking and camel trekking and, eating around a campfire. And
that's the one. That's the one.
Generally digging deep, probably not changing your clothes for 5 days.
Oh.
Could you handle that?
I think as long as I got some really good deodorant. Am I allowed deodorant?
That's one of the most liberating things I discovered. I didn't change my clothes for 36 days on the row.
Oh my gosh. Actually,
disgusting?
That is what I wish we'd spoken about. We should have just spent that whole time talking about the row.
Oh, well, we'll do that. We'll have a coffee and catch up properly about that. But thank you, Josie, so much. I have absolutely loved that whole conversation. It went in lots of different directions that I don't know that I even anticipated. I feel like we have still got lots to talk about, so we'll hold that back for next time. But thank you so much. And oh my God, have the best time in Antarctica. I'm so envious.
Thank you.
I will be thinking of you. I hope you'll be documenting your journey a little bit so that we can follow. Oh, and we can follow you how? On She Flies, at She Flies?
At She Flies _ is our Instagram. Yeah. And then me on LinkedIn, I suppose. Josie West. Anyone can find me. I think there's not many of us.
Yeah, your LinkedIn's great. So highly recommend that people follow that for some of your coaching and career advice as well. Thank you so
much for having me. It's been amazing.
Have the best time.
Thank you.
The Pin Drop podcast brings you the most intrepid chat on the podsphere. Interesting people sharing their personal formula for success, stories of personal growth, people confessing their fears and what they have learned from going to the edge. Hosted by me, Vicky Anstey, founder of We Are Intrepid.